We welcome in former Kings assistant GM Mike Futa to talk about the current state of the Kings and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 20 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. We are excited to welcome to the show a man who is uniquely qualified to discuss the current state of the LA Kings. He is the Kings' former co-director of amateur scouting, former vice president of hockey operations, director of player personnel, and former assistant general manager, and was with the Kings for their 2 Stanley Cup championships in 2012 and 2014. He is currently a part of the Fan Hockey Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, and he is Mike Futa. Mike, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Great, Eddie. Great to have me on. I'm sorry I've been delaying this for quite some time as I'm trying to stretch out my last bit of summer, but it's great to finally connect.
Well, we appreciate you coming on with us, and certainly excited about the conversation and excited about the upcoming season, although I think we're all pretty curious to see what the LA Kings have in store for us this year. I want to get your opinion on a lot of different topics, including the new general manager. But I know the Kings GM job was something that you were interested in. I know that you had some posts on social media talking about being interested in the job. I did want to ask you, did the LA Kings ever reach out to you in any way to talk about that GM vacancy?
No, it was interesting because I think I, along with everybody else, was pretty, I felt that Blakey was coming back, right? I think leading into that weekend, it seemed that there wasn't going to be a vacancy in the post. And then when Rob had made a decision, or whether they mutually decided to go their separate ways, I immediately reached out to Luc Robitaille and Dan Beckerman. And I wasn't really, I think about my social media post was more of a response to I'd love to come home or something. I had already reached out to the actual proper people in the organization, and they had said that, I heard that there was going to be an extensive search, and the next time that I heard back from them, Kenny had already been hired. So I had even gone as far as to kind of reaching out with the possibility, like Kenny's. I've got a ton of respect for Kenny's. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason, and he's been a guest on my show quite often and stuff like that. And we've kind of socially got to know each other a little bit better through the show. And I had reached out as well, kind of hoping that we might be able to. It wasn't just about becoming the general manager, just returning. I mean, that's quite proud that that's really the only place that I was with Carolina with Justin Williams for a short period of time, part-time after I left Los Angeles. But it's the only organization that I've been a part of, and the success we had. And a lot of people are still there that I was either responsible for bringing on board, or my best friend in hockey still, Mark Yannetti. So it was something I was just hoping that we'd be able to find some common ground. And again, I didn't hear back until the process had already come to fruition and been completed, and Kenny was hired, and move on from there. So I mean, obviously, he's a guy that's got a huge history with Luc Robitaille, and the Kings have been kind of kicking tires on having some successful regular seasons and looking for that playoff hump to get over it. And hopefully Kenny can work some of his old magic and have that for the LA Kings fans.
Do you feel like the Kings did the thorough search that they said they were, or do you think it was like, well, if Ken Holland wants the job, I don't know, we don't need to really look anymore? Was it that kind of a situation?
You have to ask Luke. I mean, the timing of it for me would be that Kenny Holland became available, and that was the search. And when you've got that kind of a track record or resume, that's very much Luc Robitaille's decision to make. And again, his record in his past with the Detroit Red Wings speaks for itself, and hopefully he can work some of his magic.
When you look at the job that Rob Blake did as general manager, obviously no playoff wins. The Pierre-Luc Dubois trade didn't work out. But where he took over the team to where they are at this point, certainly hard to say there wasn't progress made. What are your thoughts on the job that Rob Blake did as general manager?
Well, first off, Rob Blake's he's a Hall of Fame person as well. Things didn't go very well when in my exit from the Kings, and my relationship with Blakey at that time was quite soured. But it's a really tough job, as Dean Lombardi, anybody that can attest. It's a tough job to learn on the fly. And Blakey certainly took a lot of notes under Dean and stuff like that. But when you're thrust in that position, sometimes it's trial and error. And again, there's no substitute for experience. And I guess the work ethic that he has and his ability to learn on the fly, some of the early mistakes and errors, just from lack of experience, really kind of ironed themselves out. And he certainly looked like he was a lot more comfortable in the post moving forward. Everybody's going to have skeletons in their closet with regards to trades you wish you could have back. But by the end of it, and I even think truthfully learning from it, and it's no knock on, I was really trying to be there to be a support staff for Blakey, because at the time, when Dean was moved on, I was really the only one left from the management group, the upper management. Obviously, Mark Yannetti was still around in the pro scouts and stuff, but as far as the inner circle, I was the only one left. And it was kind of put on my, and rightfully, very excitedly, to be the guy that's kind of going to take Glenn Murray and Nelson Emerson and teach them the ropes behind the scenes and be there as a constant ear for Blakey. And I felt that I was doing that quite well. Again, it's not revisiting or anything, but I think if Rob could have a mulligan back, I think his first coaching hire was not, and it's not a knock on Willie Desjardins. I think there probably could have been a bit more thorough search. And I think that was one of those moves that kind of, we had built up such a culture, and it started to, there were just little things that were eroding, self-inflicted wounds, I think, with a couple of guys getting into some legal problems when Dean was still around, and sorting that out. But I mean, even just part of what made it really special, Eddie, was like, our family was basically based in the South Bay, the Kings family, that being, right? Like, we're running at Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, and a couple of moves that were made, we just started to get away with what made us that. And again, it's not in the individual, but I mean, when we traded for Dion Phaneuf and signed Ilya Kovalchuk, I mean, they both moved, they lived in Beverly Hills, and it just took away from something that we had really established. I mean, and again, they had previous residents there. That's where they wanted to do. But it starts to get to a point, there's guys, everybody knows what the traffic's like. There's a lot of waiting around for guys because they're either stuck in traffic or kind of doing their own thing. And again, it was just something that I think we established as being special. And it was almost like it was an absolute no-brainer that if you made the Los Angeles Kings, you lived in the South Bay and were part of that family. And just little things like that started to stray. We kind of lost some of our accountability with our product on the ice with that coaching change. And it was too bad, because I think Blakey all along wanted Todd McClellan, and I think he became available through the hockey gods, was available to be hired about 2 weeks after we had made our change. So if we'd been a little bit more patient there, I think Rob would have got the guy he wanted all along. And again, we wouldn't have had to take so many steps backwards. But again, learning on the job is a tough thing to do. And by the end of it, I think he was starting to look very much more comfortable and comfortable with his staff. They were his guys. And you could start to see that with some of the success that they were having on the ice.
Where do you feel the Kings are right now as a franchise? Obviously, they've made the playoffs 4 years in a row. They tied a franchise record for wins and points in a season last year. That seems to all be positive indications. But of course, as you well know, and you mentioned, 4 straight years of being out in the first round to the Edmonton Oilers, they seem like they're kind of stuck in this interesting spot of where, yes, they're good, but how good are they? Where are the Kings kind of right now in your mind?
It's a great question, because I know, again, there's something to do with asset management and stuff, like, and having all these bullets in your gun. And I remember back when the one thing we were very proud of was the depth we had on right shot D. I mean, I think it was Dursey, Faber, Cernak, Roy, Walker, Spence. There was so much good right defense artillery in all different shapes and sizes coming up. And I look now, and it's like they're gone. Like, they're pretty much, other than Drew's the only one that's lasted. So I think they've added some veteran pieces. I think there had to be a trust. It was pretty amazing, because the run that they were on at home was just remarkable. I've had Jim Hillier. I'm good friends with DJ Smith. We spoke at length that it was just not a place, and that was part of when we had lost what they got back. I know it's what it's called crypto. I always still call it Staples Center, but it's a tough place to play, and they had put themselves in a situation where, obviously you got two of the best players in the world across from you with the Oilers, but they'd kind of done everything to set themselves up to succeed with the home ice and the way they were playing at home. And I mean, it's been beaten up time and time again, that play. I mean, the play with Quentin trying to get the puck out on the half wall, which he's going to be a better player for his entire. But those are those little things along the way that it's like a long journey to the finals, and those little hiccups along the way. When you're successful, you look back and they're part of your magical. And the Kings were always great at putting those videos together of all the little things that happen along the way for you to succeed. And if one of those plays had happened on the non-success factor in 2012 or 2014, we would have been having a parade either. So it takes a little bit of luck, takes a little bit of timing. Hopefully the team learns from that. The thing about it is like so many things went well last year. I mean, it kills me. I heard Kopi do an interview the other day that this might be his last season, which would only be phenomenal for someone to go out on his own terms, because he's still an absolutely outstanding player. Drew went through Drew, who always seemed to be on flat bubble, gets breaks his ankle and comes back and wins a gold medal, but he looked banged up down the stretch run. So basically, like, it's hard for me to look at like the gray-haired Adrian Kempe, who actually doesn't have gray hair. He's like one of the older. He was just a little pup there, juice, when I was leaving, and now these guys, the veterans that they count on. So I think they've added some pieces. Their center depth, with Deneau, Quentin, and Kopi's solid. Last year, clearly in the playoffs, you've got to be able to trust all your troops. And for whatever reason, they were kind of getting exposed, but that depth that the Kings had was really exposed, because I think they couldn't play the fourth line, or weren't playing the fourth line very much against Edmonton for fear of exposure. And they really cut back I don't think they really trusted a couple of Ds. So when you're playing against a team like that, with that kind of speed and getting guys back in the lineup at certain times as they were kind of getting healthy, and you really are only playing like 9 forwards and 4 defensemen, it's hard. And I think that's an area that they've immediately tried to go out and address with some bigger bodies. They added a true graybeard in Corey Perry, who seems it's going to be weird watching that guy in LA Kings. And I'm very close with him, from coaching him to everything, but seeing him, it tells how long he's played, because he used to be like a poster we would throw darts at, thinking about him and Getzlav and Perry when he was an Anaheim Duck, and many moons on, he's going to be pulling on the black and silver. So I look forward to that. Hopefully he seems to have been on some magical runs that if you get Corey Perry, you're almost guaranteed at least a crack in the final or a long playoff run. So hopefully Corey, as he's on the back nine of his career, can have some of that. He drags people into the fight, right? For a guy that's kind of lost a step, he's still got great net front presence. He's dirty. He's a competitor, and he's a champion. So see if that can rub off some people with the way they play playoff style hockey.
All right, up next, we'll discuss some of those Kings offseason moves like Corey Perry. We're doing that with former Kings assistant GM Mike Futa. We'll do that next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. NFL season's almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you want to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So if you are ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We're continuing with former Kings assistant GM Mike Futa, who helped build 2 Stanley Cup winners in Los Angeles. Mike, I wanted to get your thoughts on LA being an attractive market for free agents. I know that the Kings were interested in Mitch Marner, as many other teams were. There was even a meeting that was scheduled, but then Marner decided Vegas was the place he wanted to go, and so the meeting never took place. But the Kings haven't traditionally been a place where a lot of big-time free agents have come to. Is there any reason for that, or is that just something that just hasn't happened over the years?
That's a great point. Because I mean, for me, I mean, I guess you could get into the tax issues and the cost of living and stuff like that. It can be a little bit of polarizing stuff that when the world gets a little crazy, there's a lot of stuff going on in LA. But I just can't imagine for the life of me. I mean, winning breeds it too. I mean, Dean always used to say when we were changing our culture, it was like, unfortunately, I think sometimes for the wrong reasons, you want a guy that is coming to win Stanley Cups, right? And that's where we had got it to that point that Dean had said, we don't want guys that their wives want to shop in Beverly Hills and they want to get suntans and the great golf courses and you live on the ocean. Those are all things that come along with being an LA King and being successful. And again, there's no better place to live than the South Bay. When you think about the proximity to the practice facility, the first-rate facilities, the proximity to the charter, the airport, all those traffic-y things that you hear about and scare, they really don't come into play until you, whatever. I mean, a game day, maybe driving to crypto is a little bit traffic-y, but I think it's more about, again, and not knowing when you start to see like people talk about the Panthers and these places now that are continually winning, and people say, well, it's because of they've got great tax situations. I think that's a bonus, but I don't think that's it at all. If you really truly believe you have a chance of winning and you're committed to it and you're committed to the staff, and I can't imagine somebody taking the time to go down and see everything that's offered there, and not wanting to be a part of it. They've got the most, I mean, from Grange and Pricer and, all the guys, Kinger, like they've got the staff, as much as there's been turnover all over the place, that staff's been together and they're as good as it gets with regards to the way you're treated. They've always been a place. I mean, I know what they did. They've treated the players exceptionally well with regards to the way they travel, where they stay. The weather's amazing. It's hard. There's so much to do that I don't understand it. So I'm more about if you believe in the product and you believe you have a chance to win, then it'd be a place that's a no-brainer to want to be a part of. And again, you got to put a lot into recruiting, and that was something that I know we almost had a whole department. I remember when we were going after was Brad Richards. My God, we did a presentation that we should have won. We didn't get the player. We should have won an Oscar though for the we had a voiceover Morgan Freeman. They'd done so much homework. Altieri his staff had done everything on what he wanted. And I mean, we did a videotape with Kobe Bryant and he was a huge Green Bay Packers fan. And the video had Clay Matthews and welcome him and Phil Mickelson welcome him. And I swear to God, I was watching it going, man, we don't get this guy. Now, 10 minutes after we took the tape out, he went to the New York Rangers. So I think Dean told me, yeah, we had a guitar signed by his favorite. And Dean was like, go get that effing guitar. We'll use it next year on Zach Parise Day but it was, again, he had already made his mind up where he was going because it was unbelievable, the presentation. And we did other things. Sometimes you get so caught up in the presentation and the competitive side of wanting to get the player, you forget whether the player's a good fit or not. Like I'll tell you, Ilya Kovalchuk chose us. I mean, he got offered much more money to go to Vegas, which is funny because that one was just absolutely. And I think his wife was just dead set on Beverly Hills, and he felt it'd be a good fit at the time. We had Carter and Kopitar, and again. But when you roll it back, it wasn't a really good fit for what we needed from a playing standpoint. And it was tough because when you get somebody at that stage of their career that's not happy, and then John Stevens moved on, and then Willie came in, and Kobe was just running them, just playing them like a fiddle. So it was tough. But again, you want the player so bad. Again, sometimes you overlook. You got to make sure when you're after him, you're going after the right one. Because the presentation at the end of the day, it can set you back if you do that. But I always remember laughing. Everybody talked about, because at the time, Vegas then went on this magical run and everybody talked about everything was perfect and they've got so much cap space and they could do this, do that. If they had signed Kovalchuk and was offered way more money, there would have been a different story told in Vegas moving forward with the amount of money that they had put on the table for him.
Well, you mentioned Corey Perry. The Kings also bring in Joel Armia. On the back end, Brian Dumoulin, Cody Ceci, and a backup goalie in Anton Forsberg. Veteran guys who have been certainly in the playoffs a lot. Is that the type of move that you see can be the difference for the Kings this year in the playoffs?
It's a different look, right? You got to stay. The other thing, you got to stay healthy. I mean, at the end of the day, as much as the Dubois trade gave up a lot of assets, I mean, Blakey, getting the goaltender back and him having the year that he had, you've got to make sure that you can't just assume that he's going to have the same type of year. And he definitely needs to, because they were a completely different team when he wasn't playing. But it'll be interesting because there's certain guys, you just get to a certain age that you've got to, it's tougher. I mean, I see it with the Tanev player that the Leafs picked up here. It's great sometimes when you pick up warriors and guys with, been there, done that, but it's also tougher to stay healthy if you're playing the way that you need to play to have the success that the team needs you to have on the ice. So it's been blessing that Corey's maintained his health pretty much through this whole battle. I mean, there's little stretches where, whether it's he sat out of the lineup and comes back stronger than ever. I mean, if you told me like 4 or 5 years ago, Dumoulin, it was the same thing. Dumoulin, I thought he was a staple on the back end with the Devils and stuff like that. But again, you get older, you're missing some games due to injury. So it'll be interesting. It's hard to say. I mean, these guys they're older now and they've got to stay healthy. Who did they pick up last year, Eddie? Another defenseman, the older guy, paid him a lot of money, took a lot of heat.
Joel Edmondson.
And he was really good, right? And I wasn't critical of Joel Edmondson. I was critical of sometimes when you look at the term and the dollar figure that you give up at this stage of the game. It's more that, and it's more of a conscious, like, man, you really have to pay that much for that at this stage of the career. But these guys, they do their homework on these players. There's got to be a trust factor. I mean, DJ likes DJ Smith at the back end there. He loves his smash mouth, his toughness. I know that was something they tried to do last year. I mean, when they made the trade, they picked up the fighter there from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that didn't really pan out the way they'd hoped, cash-wise or production-wise. But again, you want to have an identity of a team that's very hard to play against. It's going to be hard to match the home record that they put forth last year, just because it's the best they've ever had. So you hope that they remain focused, remain healthy, that Darcy can have the same type of year, that if this is Kopi's last year, my God, I can't believe I'm saying that it's magical, because he's going to be good. You hope that some of these young guys take strides, like Kempe's now a 34-goal scorer by, I think it's time for Quinton to take a more consistent step towards the superstar player that I think he can be, because it was funny. A lot of guys that have banked points, like you look at the guy in Ottawa that was taken ahead of him, he's taken after him. He's banked a lot of points, but if you look at the player that Quinton Byfield has a chance to be, it could be pretty special. Like, he's a big, big rig, and you started to see his game come together, and all the patience that they showed with him really could start to pay off. I hear he's spending some time in the gym with Clarkey, the confidence coach. So if you get a little bit of guy like that spitting a little bit of venom every now and then in that size, it could be add another interesting dimension to his game.
All right, we're going to talk about a player we've mentioned a few times, a future Hall of Famer in his future, and also a current King star who is looking for a new contract. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. We have an important request. Locked On would like to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer some questions about our advertising. We'd like you to go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey, lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey gets entered in a drawing for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes, and there's also a QR code for those of you watching on YouTube. Thank you for your help on this. All right, we're wrapping it up with former Kings assistant GM Mike Futa. Adrian Kempe, you mentioned him. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent after this coming season. If you were negotiating a contract with Adrian Kempe, what would that look like, and what do you think his next contract will look like?
Really big. To quote Marian Gaborik, "Show me the money." That was with. There was another one we shouldn't have showed the money to. We should have just given him a big hug. But no, he's earned it, man. That was a great contract when they signed it. And it's funny because when we drafted him, like we picked him 29th overall, and Marquinhos, like Christian Rutu had him nailed. That's funny. Root's always liked Armia too, so it's funny to see him back in debuting as a Los Angeles Kings. Some of these players that come full circle, but I just think it's amazing because you watch this guy score in practice, and when he did score, they were like goal scorers goals, but there just wasn't a lot of them. And then it's funny because for years it was just like, who the heck's going to play with Kopi? Who's going to play with Kopi? And I mean, Juice at the time, like he went through that situation and where he got beat up by his teammate and or attacked by his teammate in the minors, and it was some crazy stuff and adversity he had to go through, and he just came through it full colors. And now, man, for a guy that you just couldn't imagine, like we kind of had him in the middle. He always skated like a limousine. He looks like an actor, so he's got that part down. But I mean, man, he just looks like he's at home with Kopitar. And you've got to play with someone like Kopitar. Kopitar's got to want to play with you, and they look really good together. And I think the sky's the limit, but that's not going to be. I don't believe that one's going to be. They better sharpen their pens and pencils up because I don't think that's going to be a hometown discount when you look at a guy at that age that skates that way, that pretty much is scoring 35, 40 goals a year. And you want to keep your own, man. That's tough. That's one of our own, right? That's a King. So you don't want to lose guys like that. You talk about what just happened with Marner. You know, when you've got somebody with that kind of, you try and that one's a different one because Marner's kind of all over the map with whatever his off ice, some of his comments and stuff like that. And Toronto's a much different market than Los Angeles. But man, you just don't want to lose one of your own when you spend all that time developing somebody that becomes probably better than you ever imagined offensively and is sound defensively too and plays the right way. You just can't allow that to walk.
Could not agree more on that. Let's close it out by talking about Anze Kopitar going into his 20th season, likely going to become the Kings' all-time leading scorer this season. And a Hall of Fame career, obviously. I think he's the greatest LA King of all time. He's certainly in the discussion, regardless of any other player you want to bring up. But just your thoughts on having somebody that you've seen, that you've brought in, and now, as you mentioned, it's hard to even imagine him being maybe done at this point, but just your thoughts on an amazing career for Anze Kopitar.
Well, I wish I could take Al Murray's drafted him before I arrived there, so tip of the cap to Al. But it's indescribable because the family, the father, the parents, the brother, the kids, the wife, it's just they're everything you could imagine, and more as far as a leader, an athlete. The thing it's funny is you say, like you're saying it, he could become the Kings' leading scorer. If he wasn't so damn honest a hockey player, he'd have taken that title long ago. But because of his attention to detail on how much time he spent against the Getzlavs and the Perrys and the Joe Thorntons, shutting them down, and the defensive conscience that he has to not cheat anywhere on the ice, it's probably cost him about 200 points along the way. I love the fact, he's very proud. I know he's got a castle in Manhattan Beach and he's got a castle in Slovenia too. And he's just so proud of home that it's one of those things you don't feel bad about it. And you want him to be able to go out on his own terms, because so many of the greats that were part of our championship cup teams didn't get that chance to go out on their own terms. And, when you think about what happened with Jonathan Quick and, Justin Williams and these guys that were such staples, and it's sport, but it just, they never should have, you never wished their departures to be that way. Even the feelings how I left the organization. So to have somebody who is clearly the most decorated king of all time, championship wise, trophy wise, probably should have won a Hart. But they were too busy. He was one of those guys that just got painted as the Selkie, Lady Bing, Lady Bing, Lady Bing. Like he and Drew, they've kind of it's hard to imagine, man. Like I was just talking, like Toffoli and Pearson, they're these crazy veterans now. Alec Martinez, it's going to be so different to not see Alec Martinez lacing them up. And we've shared so many stories over the phone. I mean, Justin Williams, his son's starting his first year of junior hockey. He just won a gold medal, and he's playing for the Ottawa 67. So you start to see how these guys have evolved. And I know they've kept like legends like Matt Green and Jarrett Stoll still work for the organization, and Sean O'Donnell, which is great because they are so much of the culture that we had. But Kopitar is, man, that's just, I mean, I hope they've already started on the statue. Like, I mean, that one's a friggin' no-brainer as far as what he's brought to the table. You can probably, you could put, for me, Kopitar, I mean, the whatever you call it, the Mount Rushmore, I'll debate the fourth one because I know who I would throw on it, but I would say Quickie, Kopitar, and Drew, right? I mean, Gretzky changed the entire face of hockey in Los Angeles, so I'm sure he's up there. The old president of hockey operations was a pretty good king as well there, Lucky Luke. But I think part of that is to have won a championship there, right? And won it and be such a huge part of it, being drafted as a king and finish your career as a king and be, first class in every capacity. Just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And that's, once you meet his parents, you know where that starts from. So yeah, it'll be an emotional one. I hope it ends the way he wants it to end, however that is. I'm sure the only way, I mean, I'm sure being the captain and going to get the magical way would be end is for him. I mean, Dustin Brown was our captain at the time, so he's the one that got handed the Stanley Cup, but that would be the ultimate enshrinement for Mr. Kopitar, is to go on a long run and get his third Stanley Cup and then take that magical family back to Slovenia and and live like the royalty that he always has been.
Well, he is former Kings assistant general manager Mike Futa, also a part of the Fan Hockey Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm sure you guys are getting ready for the new season as well. Continued success with the show, and thank you for doing this. We really appreciate your time, and hope we can do it again sometime, Mike.
Thanks for sticking with me, Eddie. We got her done. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Take care, and all the best with your upcoming surgery as well, the knee surgery.
Thank you very much.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. For you everydayers, those who listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, we have a reaction show at the end of every week. If you have any thoughts on the interview with Mike Futa, we'd love to hear what you have to say. You can always send your questions and comments to lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. If you're watching on YouTube, we welcome your comments in the comment section. Stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.